Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Apoor Malik, and I am the host of today's webinar. And I welcome you all here in this webinar session being conducted by TNV Academy. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce the guest speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Ajay Bajpai. In this webinar today, the topic which Mr. Ajay Bajpai will be discussing with us will be design and development of products and services, which is a part covered under clause 8.3 of ISO 9001 quality management system. Mr. Ajay Vajpayee has audited several organizations for various management system standards and has helped several others for their implementation. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Ajay Vajpayee, has done his bachelor's in engineering in metallurgy stream. He is also a lead auditor in ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 37001, 22000, 27001, 13485, 22301, and 50001 standards respectively. If we talk about his overall experience till now, so he has an industrial experience of around 15 plus years as implementer of management system standards and around 32 plus years in auditing and certification. He has also been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs, and individuals on various topics related to ISO terminologies and their certification and implementation. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajay Bajpai. I may request Mr. Ajay Bajpai now to please take over and start the webinar.
Thank you, Apur. This subject is normally not very well understood by most of the auditors who start doing auditing in the beginning because this is not a general subject. This is a technological subject, and I say this is a high-tech subject with respect to those who are not into the industry and those who are not understood the softwares and the development of products and services. In many cases, the implementers, the trainers, the consultants, the clients, the auditors across the globe mostly understands in past that it is only the products which is being discussed as a design. So the sentence is design. They most of them have been understanding only the design of the products. And then later on, when the revisions and understanding started getting more clear, they have started understanding the requirement as a development also. What is development? We will understand it as we move on. And then services was also understood because a lot of services which are going for certification, services management system is going to services activities with respect to 9001. So we need to look at it from an angle that yes, we are talking of a design and development. Development means what? We get some product, we are already manufacturing some products, we are already providing some services, but further development is done. For example, we have got a DG set which is having a capacity manufacturing of the organization as 300 kV. Okay, with with the soundproofing, noise proofing, and all not available today in that manufacturing industry. So they are going to add those soundproofing and vibration controls. So that becomes a development. They have got a exhaust level pipe which is of 10-meter today. They are going to increase the pipe height of the exhaust by 5 more meters with giving some angle to it as per the requirement of the customer, or a flexible exhaust pipe which will be rotating as per the requirement of the site. So this is something which is called development. We have added some extra item to it. We have increased the height, we have increased some rotational point into it. So this is a development we have done into that. Similar thing is applicable for the services. We are, for example, providing the internet services. We are a service organization. We were providing those services only with respect to certain domains as approved by the clients or by the statutory regulatory boards. Now we want to enhance that. The platforms are going to be added. The capacity is going to be enhanced. The cloud area needs to be enhanced. So whenever we are going to do some add-ons into our servicing activity, they are called development. So we need to understand this first line very clearly, and as implementers, as trainers, as auditor, we need to see it very carefully what is the scope of the organization with respect to the design activity. So once we have understood this first line, then we go to the applicability of the design. We'll be going little slow on this subject, and Apurv, you can, when you are uploading this one, you can upload this as part 1, because if part 1 is not clear, then while uploading, part 2 becomes a problem. One of the uploading is still awaited. Maybe it was missed because of the part 1, part 2 were not clear. So this we will be discussing as part 1, because it is a detailed activity, it is a detailed exercise. It cannot be completed in one webinar. Okay. So now we come to the applicability of the design. Where all it is applicable, how it is applicable. You see, we get a lot of applications for last many years, and we have seen it very clearly while discussing with the clients, within our team of certification body, with the trainers, with the consultants. So sometimes an organization is conducting designs. They are a design company. They are a design responsible company. But design is not a simple activity. To document itself, when we go into various clauses, sub-clauses, you will understand it is a detailed engineering exercise which many organizations find difficult to implement. So they try to ignore and avoid it. When consultant visits them, when trainer visits them, they say, no, sir, we are not doing any design. Our design is a proven design in the market. It is given by the customers. No, sir, we are having it from collaborators. We are having it from our partners. So they are doing design, but they try to avoid it because of the intricacies, because of the detailed exercise required, and maybe their capabilities are not enough to meet the requirement of the documentation and implementation when it comes to the documentation and practical angles of the design and development. So they try to avoid it. Second type of situation comes into the applicability is some customers want this manufacturer to be a design company. They will accept their products and services. They will accept their compressor, DG sets, or their internet services, or their intranet services, or their hoteling activities, or their accommodation providing activities only when they find this supplier to be a design company. So they ask this customer to say that yes, you try to do design. When you design your product and services, then only we will accept it. So this particular fellow had never done designing. He's not a design company. But since his customer is asking that he will approve his products and services only if he demonstrate to them as a design company. So this company, this manufacturer, this service organization approaches a trainer, consultant, or a certification body like us, and he says, "Sir, I want a scope with the design of these pipes, design of this internet service, design of the accommodation services, design of the education services or primary education services, whatever the scope he is falling into. So we need to study that. We need to understand that. And our inquiry forms and most of the inquiry forms of consultant also have a column which wants the client to speak about their design capability. So when it comes to moving on further, it is seen that yes, this company is not able to design. They do not have the capability to design. So decision has to be taken by the you know the team involved into the certification process. What do we do? Either they have to develop the design capability, or we have to say no, you cannot be a design company today. You can be certified as a organization without design included into it. But again, the customer wants design, so he again emphasizes, he again makes a request to the teams involved, and he says that I want design. So then he need to develop the design capability. So we need to be careful whether design is applicable or not applicable. This is a decision which needs to be taken initially at the initial development of the management system of ISO 9001, because this is applicable only in 9001. Sometimes there is a confusion also that some 14,000 or OSAS company approaches us or approach a trainer and consultant, and they write the scope as a design into it. So we need to be clear that design is only applicable in quality management system ISO 9001. Then comes when we go into more details and try to understand who is responsible for conducting the design. You know, who is giving the design, whether the client himself is able to design, what happens. We need to understand this. And also we need to understand what are the standards availability. There are many products and services where there are clear cut standards available in India, ISI standards, American Petroleum Institute standards, API. Then when we talk of UK, BIS standards is there. So DIN is there. So there are many standards available. Medical devices has got a standard where they are going for 9001 and 13485 together. So it is a decision which needs to be taken care when we are going for a joint audit with 13485 at times. What is the applicability of design and what standards are available? Then we have to see whether these standards are giving the full requirement of design. Design is not only a simple thing like a drawing. Sometimes the clients, the customer, the consultant, the auditor gets confused with the drawing. Oh, there's a drawing, so it is a design. You know, yes, there's a standard, so design is available, and we will do it as per this given by whom? Given by sometimes the customer. Customer sometimes gives the design, drawing. So a drawing or standards available or standard referred in purchase order is sufficient enough for a manufacturer to conduct and say yes, I can design, or it is a design given by the customers or available as a standard. So we need to study this point in details and understand it in totality. Standards are available, but many standards are only giving little bit of information, like they will talk of some specification, some details. They may not give the details of the materials, they not give the testing standards, they may not give details upon the modifications which can be done as a development activity. So a standard in itself may not be complete to provide the design activity. So we need to understand it in details. Customer has given the drawing. Is drawing giving specifications of the material? Yes, sometimes it may be there. Sometimes it is available into drawing, then it is all right. That yes, the drawing and design is provided by the customer, but many times the drawing itself may not have the specific requirement, the testing requirements are not there, the modification requirements are not there into the drawing which he has provided. You know that the development requirements are not there, the material test specification requirements are not there. So that is a situation where the information is not fully available to claim as a design being given by the customer. Then comes self design. Many companies, as I discussed above, are design capable companies and they do design themselves. So we need to go in details and study what is their capability as a trainer, as a consultant, as an auditor. They say we are a design company, we are doing design ourselves. So do they have a design department? Do they have a drawing department? Do they have CAD CAM facility available? Are they having the latest version of CAD CAM? So that they their claim to do a design themselves or development themselves of products and services is up to the mark, and they can be certified as a organization having design capability. Many times we go to organization and they will say we have subcontracted designs. Our subcontractor is doing the design, so we are not a design responsible company. This concept is not correct because they are the organization, they have subcontracted it to somebody, but basic responsibility lies with the manufacturer or with the service provider because he has subcontracted it to somebody, and that ABC subcontractor is providing him the design and drawing and development activity. So responsibility lies with self, the client. Subcontracting he has done for his convenience because he did not have the facility or he did not want to do a detailed drawing and design because of various reasons. So this is a situation which should be very clear. Then many times there are customers or there are manufacturers who say we take samples from the market and we produce our products as per the market samples. So they say we are not a design company. That concept is again not clear because if you take the samples of a pipe or a samples of a cloth or a samples of a, for example, laptop, and they want to copy it and manufacture it with respect to the sample, but they have to do a detailed exercise. They have to understand the dimension, they have to understand the material, they have to understand the input requirements, they have to understand how they will do the testing of it. They have to do a lot of exercise to produce the same kind of a sample. So they have to do a detailed engineering, they have to do a lot of development activity, so they becomes a design responsible company. So who is responsible in this case? If they take a sample from the market, they become a design responsible company. Sometimes customer gives them a sample. Many times the customer gives sample to a manufacturer and he says you produce the pipe or the cloth or the laptop or the a plastic bucket or the container as per my this sample. In this case also the manufacturer who he becomes a he comes into a category where he becomes a design responsible company because he need to do an exercise of finding out the dimensional parameter, the thickness, the length, the software into if it is a case of a computer or laptop sample development by him by a customer given sample. So he becomes a development company. So in this case also he becomes a design company. So the concept should be clear from here that yes, if these are the situation, this becomes the applicability of the design responsibility, the availability of the standards given by the customers, self-development, subcontracting, taking the samples from the market. So these are various situations which need to be understood starting from the top of this heading, going into the details of these lines and these sub lines, understanding the responsibility, that who is doing it, what are the possible reasons of making him a design responsible, or ignoring or avoiding the situations of designing. We need to control both sides of the situation. They cannot just say that we do not do it, and they cannot just say that yes, we are doing it. Okay, for getting the orders, we cannot just get the scope of their conveniently converted as a design oriented company, design responsible company. So this was the thought and background for the understanding of the 8.3. Most of the auditors are not able to understand this unless they go into the depth of the design and drawings of those products and processes. So we always suggest that auditors who are going to conduct the audit of design activity, they should have enough adequate experience for conducting of the audit of design activity. They should have adequate knowledge of that particular products and servicing falling into design or not design. And adequate checklists are definitely required for conducting the audit of a design activity, whether it is internal or second party or third party audit. Then we go to the clause of the first clause of the design, that is 8.3.1. We'll be going slow and studying each of these lines very carefully, because design, as I say, is not a general and normal activity. Every clause is equally important, but design is a deep and in-depth exercise, and it requires a lot of engineering knowledge, lot of service activity, in-depth knowledge to move along. So organizations are established. First of all, they need to establish all this which we have discussed. Then once they are clear of establishing all this, then they will go for implementation, because without establishing it correctly done from above points, implementation is not suggested. And then they maintain a design and development process. Once they have understood concept or clear, then they go for maintaining a design and development process which is appropriate, that should be correct, that should be accurately defined to ensure the subsequent provision of products and services. If they do a mistake here, if it's not done correctly, then further direction, further discussion, further provisions to address products and services will go wrong. And their designing activity, doing or not doing, subcontracting or not subcontracting, with market sample or not, with the standards or not, with subcontracting or not, they will not be going in the correct direction. So understand, this is of key importance. So once we have understood the concept, and now we are going to get into a design. So now we say that we are a design responsible company. Once it is decided that we are a design responsible company, so then only we are going to get into a designing. Otherwise, it will be a non-applicable. If it's non-applicability, then also we have to justify. When we are going for a third party audit, we need to be sure that if an organization is saying it is not applicable, then we need to go into details and study how and why it is not applicable. Just by making a statement, it is not applicable, is not justified to us as an auditors. They need to justify into documentation, and they have to demonstrate to us as an auditor whether to start with first party, second party, and finally when we are into stage 1 audit, document review audit, we need to understand why it is not applicable, what is the justification given by the client that they are not a design responsible company. It is given by the standard, it is given by the customer, or it is by market sample, rubaru, everything is in, have 100% given. So those justifications are important. Once they have justified, they are not applicable, then we don't go into all this. But the moment we are clear that yes, ABC company, manufacturer of this, the DG set compressors or laptops or servicing activity for a intranet services or hosting the websites, design company services. Now we go into design activity. So we are going into understanding the design process now. All right. So the first step is, and the first clause is design and development planning. So planning, as we have discussed into earlier many webinars for other clauses, for other activities, for other functions, for other processes, is equally important for design and development also. So we are getting into the planning now. So we have to understand the various stages and the controls for design and development. So this is not just like that. Normally it is a team exercise. We'll understand it in details further, but to begin the process into the planning, it is a team exercise. I always say cross-functional team and small group activities. So it is very, very critical for design and development planning. And lot of factors need to be considered, which are like this. The nature. What is the nature of the products and service? What we are going to develop? And what is the duration and complexity of the design and development activity? Activity cannot go on with a non-set target. We need to set the targets because many times there's an issue because customer wants a target-oriented design and development activity to be completed. So when we are getting into the design, duration, and the complexity of the design and development needs to be understood. Then what are the required process stages of design? What are the various stages of design, taking into the confidence of the supplier, the customer, the engineering team. Then once we start, how the applicable design and development reviews will be done. When we start design activity, review is a very, very critical and intricate part of the design and development. It is a slow process. It cannot be done fast. There is nothing which is fast done in design and development activity. So at various stages, we have to plan. At what stage we will be doing the review? When we make the drawing, we'll review it. When we go into the material planning, we'll review it. Likewise, we have to define the stages. Then what we'll do when we go into further development, what verifications will be done? Verification means checking, inspection and testing. Whenever we are going to develop a new design or going a development or modifications, we need to verify at various stages. It is prototype, the production time, it is the pre-launch, or it is the final time, whatever is the stages of inspection and testing, verification, and then validation. When design is going to be finalized, some sample production have been done, so we need to do the validation. So at what stages we will be doing it, when we will be doing it, weekly, monthly, yearly, depending upon the product cycle. Sometimes it takes years to develop the products. Many products take many months to develop. So it depends upon what we are going to do. When we are into organization like satellites, solar implications, when we are trying to have a satellite launching done, it takes years. So it depends upon how many months, how many years, which units and all we will be involving. Then we have to also define the responsibilities and authorities involved in designing and development process. Like a lot of developments when we are hearing and listening into the news, into the Ukraine and Russia war, that lot of satellite development above sky has been done with the involvement of American, Russians, and many other companies. So they have been moving together. So who is authorized for what? America will be doing what? Russia will be doing what? When they have decided the design and development, they have been involved. All this, when we are talking of some development activity of ISRO in India at Chennai, what is the role of going to be the Ministry of Aviation? What is the role of going to be the statutory and regulatory board? What is the role of going to be the material suppliers? Who will be purchasing the material through the industry import and export organization? So all these responsibilities and approval authority needs to be defined and decided at this particular time. In a small company who is manufacturing DG sets, who will be going to buy the new rotating design of the pipe which we are going to design? Who will decide for the material which is going to be used for the extension of the exhaust pipe? Whether it will be imported or it will be developed indigenously. So all the responsibility authority needs to be defined at this initial design and development stage. Then, what are the internal and external resources needed for design and development of products and services? We always say products and services, not leaving services out of the scope or from the understanding of the trainer and auditors. So we need to identify what internal resources are required. We have seen into organization many times there has been a raising of non-conformities into design activities. They had internal materials available, they have internal resources available, but they have not involved the team, as I said in the beginning. So they have unnecessarily gone for the purchase of the extra materials. They unnecessarily use external resources, whereas the resources were available within the organization. And then finally, the management said, you have wasted a lot of resources and money. So it has to be done by giving a lot of thought where we need internal, where we need external resources as per the needs. So development planning has one of the integral part of this. Then we need to understand the controlling of the interfaces between the persons who all are the interfaces, the design with the purchase, purchase with the maintenance team, maintenance with the engineering, engineering with the inspection, inspection with the marketing, marketing with top management or export import department. All this interfacing, when we started the process, we need to define into the development planning. Okay, once we are clear with that, then we need to involve the customers and user in the design and development process. Okay, when we start the design and development planning, we need to see at what stage we will be involving the customers into the raw material planning, maybe because sometimes some customer will be giving us the raw material for the development. So maybe the final user may be giving us some of the drawings or designs available with him to support our design and development activity because they have got it done sometime else, maybe 10 years back, maybe 5 years back with some other subcontractor of theirs. So they would like to share that with you so that your design and development plan is going in the right direction. Some and they involve the final users at times. So they have to be involved in weekly meeting, monthly meeting, into the 6 monthly meeting or yearly meeting or whatever is the stage of design and development process. We need to document and define that. Yes, these are the at these stages the customer and users will be involved so that our design and development planning is going to be robust, effective. Then what do we do? Requirement of subsequent provisions of products and services. We are going into design and development planning. So, trial sampling is being done. Some 5 samples are being developed. They will go into the further launching. They will go to the market. They will be having the addition of further things into it. Maybe the packaging needs to be involved. Maybe the trial runs to be done. So for that, tracks needs to be developed. Some railway engine is being developed at a speed of 200 miles per hour into maybe say Mumbai area. So you don't have a track for that. So need, though this railway engine will have a track. Further support the signaling system, the tracking system, the railway station system, the driver engine system to support this. So all this needs to be further brought into this design and development planning. This is all a part of the planning activity. Then we also need to understand what controls are expected for design and development process by customers, because customers have a lot of expectations onto the controls. Since this is new design, new satellite is going to be launched, which involves 2 3 countries, new car is being developed, which needs the collaborator also to be involved. New DG set is being developed, which needs the two collaborators to be involved, one from Germany, one from Spain. So the customer expectation needs to be really taken care of during that time. Another relevant interested party, there is statutory and regulatory board, there are legal entities in the state and in the country. There are interested parties like suppliers and customers and the own employees also of the custom of the client. So they all needs to be taken care as a part of the design and development planning, because what they expect, how much control needs to be done. The control should not go in such a way that our suppliers and our subcontractors are left out. They are need to be part of the design and development activity. So it is important that we can do that. So it is relevant to involve them in the beginning stage of the design and development planning. Then documented information needed to demonstrate the design and development requirements have been met. So finally, we have done all this exercise into design and development planning, and then we need to ensure that yes, this is available as a documented information. So when we go for audit, we would like to see that these steps A to I are documented effectively, and various stages, nature, duration, complexity, required processes, applicable design and development reviews, and the planning and verification all are adequately defined and understood clearly. Okay, so these are the stages which are very, very critically required into the understanding of the design and development process. So we go further to the design and development inputs. How one design and development can be can proceed further. Who all are required? How the inputs are required? So there are various type of products and processes and services available, which needs to be designed to see that effective design of a product and process and services are developed. So inputs will have functional requirements. They should have functional. I said if we are going to increase the size of a DG set exhaust pipe, there is a functional requirement because the customer wanted the exhaust pipe height should be more by 5 meters. So this is functional requirement. Okay. Then as I said, rotational requirement is there for the exhaust pipe. So it is a rotational requirement. Then performance requirement. Maybe the size of the pipe, the outlet, the diameter may be increased so that the more exhaust can take place to avoid the pollution of the nearby areas, or the car speed needs to be enhanced, as I said, or the engine speed, as I said, needs to be enhanced. So that's a performance requirement. Okay. Then lot of information we get from similar design and development activity. As I said, the similar kind of design and development has been done some 10 years back or some 5 years back in some other country or some other company. So that information we can derive ourselves, our customer can give us, or our suppliers can at times give an input to it. Okay. Lot of inputs are coming from statutory and regulatory requirements. As they keep on changing the requirements, they keep on updating the requirements. For example, lot of medical devices have been updated into the design and development for 9001 and 13485 joint implementation being done in many companies. So after Corona, what are the changes done? What are the medical requirements of the those devices? So another products also may have a lot of requirements. So those changes are coming from as an input from the statutory drug control authorities, medical institutes, medical information companies, medical documentation, and so on. Then standards of code practices that the organization has committed to implement. There are a lot of standards which an organization has to follow, BSI, BIS, API, all those standards codes need to be followed by the organization. So they are to be used as the input because they are having a lot of requirement when we are going to design and develop a new product. So we need to involve them into as the input point. Then there has been a lot of failures which the documents are available, or we need to see how the products can fail, or how our design and development activity can fail, how the prototypes of sample have failed, or we have gotten from information from previous similar failures. So those failure consequences we have to understand. The tracks needs to be designed at a for an engine, railway engine going to run at a speed of 200 miles per hour in Mumbai area. So what can be chances of failure? The tracks, the soil conditions, the signaling conditions, the training of drivers, the behavior of natures, and so on. All this needs to be understood when we are going into the design and development planning as an input activity. And the input should be adequate for design and development process. There should not be a mismatch. Input should not mismatch when we are going into the development planning. They should be complete. The information, the document, the data, the standards, the activity, the input, the analysis should be complete and unambiguous. No doubts when we are going to plan and you take an input. It should not be, as I always say, not based upon facts, feelings. It should be based on facts and figures, proven designs, earlier designs, samples with us, clear samples, same samples, similar samples. Not, oh, it can be a sample likewise. No, exact sample, proven samples, approved samples. So they should be clear. Conflicting design and development input shall be resolved. When we are considering a planning activity and we are taking a design and development influence, anything which is having a conflict of interest with design, or there is a variation into design and development activity, that should be resolved. We have got a cross-functional team. We have got 6 members into the design and development team. There is some opinion which are not meeting. You can have one more meeting. You can involve one more member from a purchasing department. You can involve a purchasing department person from customer or from the supplier, so that your packaging discussion is clear and no conflict is left before we can go for the design and development activity by having the correct input. So it is very important and very critical that no conflicts are left, because it is a question of investment of lot of money, lot of time, as we have discussed. The duration may be weeks or months or years at times. Sometimes decades are gone into developmental activities of a particular designs of a area, or maybe a country, or maybe a design of a resource and development into satellite and going to Venus and Mars and development there. So it's a lot of investment, a lot of no conflict should be left into design and development activity. And also, when we go as an auditors, we want to see this needs to be documented. We want to see effective document and data to be shown to us how the input has been collected and it has been analyzed and what are the implications of design and development inputs for the future of the design and development activity and further design to be ensured. So, what all we have discussed so far, we will get back to our first slide, and this is the part one of the design and development of the discussions. This is a very detailed exercise, so we can do it in only parts. The entire 8.C cannot be done in one session. So, what happens? We have discussed design and development of products and services. Very critical. Design and development both go hand to hand. And any of these things being done, company becomes a design responsible company. And products and services both are part of design and development. Then applicability and non-applicability we have discussed. It is very critical in the beginning itself that we say applicable or not applicable. If applicable, yes, we go on to 8.31 and so on. If not applicable, justify it. Then who is responsible? Do we have standards applicable? Do standards define the design in totality? Has customer given you everything so that you can do design? So you can say customer has given it. If you are doing self-design, you are design responsible company. Do you have capability to conduct the design? Need to be ensured. Subcontracting, still the responsibility is on self. Me as a manufacturer and designing, I am responsible. Market samples, given sometimes the organization takes samples from the market and they start doing designing. But how to do it, what not to do it, we have discussed. Then once we are clear that yes, we are a design responsible company, then we move on further. When we move on further, the very important and critical activity is the planning of the design, the various stages, various processes, the design development process, authorities, responsibilities, interfacing with the customers, what all to be take, how controls to be exercised, at what stages customers and final customer really and interested party to be involved, what is the time duration, what are the phases of the design, all needs to be defined in design and development planning. Further is the input to the design also needs to be documented, statutory regulatory requirement, functional performance requirement, previous design and development inputs can be taken. No conflict should be left. The team is working in hand to hand. They define all these interfacing and then they resolve all the points before they go into the further development of the activity. So they also need the retainment of the documentation here, which we as an auditor, internal or external, verify it. So this is what I thought I will discuss in design and development of products and services, part 1. So if you have any questions, you are welcome. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, this particular clause 8.3 design and development, it is applicable for all kind of organizations or for any specific organization only?
Any organization where the applicability is there, if it is applicable to them, yes, it is their responsibility to meet and they are responsible for it. So this applicability we have to understand by going into the details of all this. We have to go into details of all this and they will understand whether this is applicable to them or not. We have to go into who is responsible, whether customer has given it, whether they have taken a sample from the market, whether they are doing some development activity or not, also considering the servicing activity of theirs. So we need to go into a lot of details to understand whether it is applicable to them or not. Okay. And based upon that, they have to spell out their scope. Yes, they are a design company or they are not a design company. We will understand further into maybe into discussion into part two, and maybe if required part three. It will be more and more clear. And I suggest all of you, to read it more and more, all the clauses, and then ask more questions, because this will take time to get clarity. This is not a simple clause to understand. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
If any other participants has any questions, they can please ask now.
Hello.
Huh.
Yeah, sir, my question is design and development is customer based or itself by company?
It can be both ways. If a customer has provided entire information to an organization, for example, we are a customer wants some plastic bottles to be purchased by me as a manufacturer. He gives me a drawing of the plastic bottle. He gives me the material specification. He also, supports me with the where from I can purchase the raw materials and all, how the testing can be done. He has given me the testing parameters also. He has given me the final results also. So in that case, it is the responsibility of the customer, and me as a bottle manufacturer will easily say, I am only a manufacturer of these plastic bottles. But similar example, a customer like Mr. Apur will say, Mr. Ajay, you give me plastic bottles to meet my requirements of the blood storage. I don't give any inputs to you. So now I have to design everything. I have to take more inputs from you, maybe from the customers. I have to design the size of the bottle. I have to decide the material of the bottle. I have to decide the testing parameter of the bottle. I have to decide the capacity of the bottle. So in this case, I become the designer and manufacturer of the bottles for storage of the blood. So this is the difference.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, one more question. Sir, in design and development, risk measured or not?
No, I'm not clear about the question. Can you repeat?
Okay, sir. Sir, in design and development, risk controls are measured or not?
Definitely, they are measured. The further discussion when we have, we will when we do the verification, when we do the validation. So the measurement is done, number one, by the internal resources, and number two, by the external resources. And when we go for the, when the prototype goes into the market, when we come to the pre-launch situation, or when we go for the final launch of the engines and the cars, they are measured at various stages. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
We can now come to the conclusion of this particular session. I would say that if any of the other participants has any questions in future, they can please put their questions in the video section of this particular webinar and the comment section of this particular video, which will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. And we will be passing on those questions to Mr. Ajay Bajpayee, and he will be definitely answering them. I would say that this is a very exciting topic which we discussed today. This particular concept of design and development of products and services, which is covered under 8.3 clause of ISO 9001, is a very lengthy procedure to understand. And the way Mr. Ajay Bajpayee has taken it up by sharing his knowledge in parts will help all of us and all of our participants to understand this concept very well. So as Mr. Bajpayee said, that we will be continuing this particular discussion in our next webinar as well, because this is a very giant topic and cannot be covered in a single part. So we will be coming soon with another webinar on this same topic, and we will be requesting you to join us in that particular webinar as well. I thank Mr. Ajay Bajpayee from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of TNV Academy for giving his valuable time and accepting our invitation to discuss this particular topic today. I also thank all the participants for taking out time from their busy schedule and joining us in this webinar today. Hope to see you all again soon in the next part. Wish you all a very best of luck on behalf of TNV Academy for all your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you.